UnCanadian by Be Constant. Haunted Part 2. Sitting on the hospital bed, I clenched my fists, desperate to push back, to say something, anything. Every fibre of my being screamed to release my frustration, but the words froze in my throat. I rehearsed and rewrote my response a dozen times in my mind, each version softer than the last. I couldn't risk sounding too harsh or overreacting. Each time I found the courage to speak, my silence suffocated me. The caseworker and the nurse exchanged nods, their silent agreement louder than any words. To them, this was routine. To me, it was suffocating. The caseworker kept referring to it as a precaution, as if my entire existence had suddenly become something fragile, something that needed bubble wrap. She explained it again, calm and careful, as though I hadn't heard her the first time. What was I supposed to say to that? What choice did I have? I nodded, stiffly, politely, cooperatively, while something inside me screamed at the futility of it all. The caseworker seemed so certain that James was abusive. Everything she saw confirmed it. No matter what I said, how I defended him or tried to explain, her mind was already made up. To her, James was a monster, and I was blind, unable to see it. Every word I spoke, every move I made became more evidence against me. In her eyes, I was either trapped in an abusive relationship and too afraid to admit it, or I was recovering and didn't realize it yet. There was no room for anything else. Her certainty felt like an impenetrable wall, sparking an investigation into the well-being of a child who hadn't even been born yet. I felt powerless against it, struggling to understand what they thought they knew about me, about James, about the life we shared. This was going to be my first time back at the apartment since the incident. That's what she called it. To her, it was just another line in a report, something small and forgettable. Her reasoning made sense. Logically, I understood why she was doing this, but it was absurd. I didn't need an escort. I wasn't some fragile invalid, barely able to walk through my own door. I was fine. But to them, I was a cracked vase, glued together, tittering on shattering. They didn't see me, not really, just their version of me. I still didn't understand it. How could James hurt a baby that didn't exist? None of it made sense, no matter how hard I tried to piece it together. Yet looking back, I wondered if they'd seen something I hadn't, if the cracks in our life together had been obvious to them in ways they weren't to me. Maybe it started with something small, like his refusal to attend the appointments. James didn't see the point in those appointments. "I'm not pregnant, so why waste my time?" he'd said. Attendance was mandatory, though, and he resented being forced to go. His frustrations simmered just beneath the surface, waiting to boil over. Maybe that's where the problems began. But James wasn't always like this. I remember when he was sweet, even magical. In the beginning, he made everything feel enchanted. I'd wake in the middle of the night to find his side of the bed empty. Faint notes would drift from the living room, delicate and haunting, pulling me from sleep. My heart would leap as I followed the sound, giddy and breathless, like a child on Christmas morning. The apartment would be dark, lit only by the soft glow of dozens of candles, their flames casting golden reflections on the walls. The light flickered like tiny dancers, keeping rhythm with the music. And there he'd be, sitting at the piano, his loose white shirt draped over his frame, the picture of effortless grace. In the candlelight, he looked almost unreal, like something out of a storybook, part medieval poet, part dream. His dark hair shimmered in the amber glow, shifting like fire with every movement. The light touched his skin as if it belonged there, transforming him into something more than human. In those moments, he wasn't just James. He was mine, and I loved him. He was my soulmate, my one true love, my everything. But that was the beginning, before the game started. James hated interruptions when he practiced. The piano was his sanctuary, his untouchable world. At first, I understood this. His talent deserved space. His music was sacred. Disturbing him felt unthinkable. I didn't belong anywhere else. Only James mattered. For years, my world revolved around him. He was my storm, my chaos. His brilliance, so heavy and turbulent, demanded an escape, and I believed I could be the one to carry it. A musical genius destined for greatness deserved that, didn't he? But life doesn't always wait. Sometimes I needed him, only when it truly mattered, only when it was something even he deemed important. I approached him cautiously, rehearsing my words to sound polite and deferential. "I hate to bother you, but..." Every plea began the same way, but it never mattered. To James, I was merely a disruption to his pursuit of artistic perfection. I obsessed over how I sounded. Was my tone too sharp, too loud? I feared awakening his storm. A misplaced word could shatter his fragile calm and unleash his wrath. So I softened my voice, turning whispers into shouts in my mind, carefully shaping each word to avoid defiance. I told myself I was his calm, but deep down I knew the truth. My calm wasn't strength. I was numb. I wore it like a mask, smooth and frozen, like clear ice. It reflected everything and revealed nothing. Day by day, pieces of me slipped away until I was hollow. My obedience wasn't just a habit, it was a survival mechanism. My politeness was a fragile line between me, his chaos. He never looked up, never paused. His fingers danced on the keys as if I wasn't there. His silence was deliberate, not just an absence of sound, but a punishment, a reminder of my place. Still, the dance continued. His silent dismissal, my whispered pleas, circling the same painful truths. I used to find it thrilling. Every reluctant smile or fleeting glance felt like a victory, proof that I mattered. But now the game felt hollow. The rules were cruel, the victories meaningless. I wasn't even sure if I mattered anymore, to him or to myself. Yet I stayed quiet. How many times had I swallowed my words, swallowed my pride just to keep the peace? How many times had I told myself it wasn't worth the fight? But today it wasn't about flattery, it wasn't about winning him over, it was about our baby. The music swirled around the room, beautiful and indifferent. "James," I begged, my voice a whisper, "today of all days you agreed to come with me." My hands pressed together in a silent prayer as I forced myself to keep playing along. A grunt, barely more than a sound, but I recognized it for what it was, a warning. He didn't even glance at me, just kept his head down, fingers moving over the keys. I noticed the faintest tug at the corners of his mouth, a small, almost imperceptible smile. Was he enjoying this? The power? The way I had to grovel and beg? "James, do you remember agreeing to go to the doctor's appointment with me?" I tried again, keeping my voice steady, softer this time. A cruel game dragged me into a spiral I couldn't escape. My pulse raced, frustration simmering beneath the surface, yet dulled, as if my body had already surrendered. What was once playful, a secret language between us, now felt unbearable. Each word I spoke weighed me down, a reminder of my powerlessness. "James," I began, my voice soft and soothing, trying to sound patient even though my stomach was in knots. "Please, you need to get ready. The appointment is today and they're starting to ask questions at the hospital. They're wondering why you never come with me." I paused, searching his face for any flicker of acknowledgement. Nothing, just the rhythmic movement of his hands over the keys, his head bowed, focused on the music. "It's important. It's our baby, James," I said, my voice breaking ever so slightly. "I want you involved, please." Then he smiled, a small, infuriating smirk. He finally spoke, his voice low and mocking. "You'll be fine on your own." "James, this is about our baby. You should be there. I don't want to go through this alone." The words tumbled out of me, louder than I intended, but my words went unheard, unacknowledged. "I'm doing this for us," I whispered in desperation. "I need you to be there." He didn't respond, just continued playing. In that moment, my voice faded into nothingness, immersed by the haunting melody and overcome the profound silence between us. "Do you understand me? Do you see how it always was with James? The silence, the music, they absorbed everything, even me. But that's what love is, right? Or maybe I just told myself that so I could ignore the truth. This isn't easy for me to share, but you need to hear it. You need to know what happened next to our perfect life. It's not just my story, it's a warning. If you're still here with me, I need you now more than ever. Let me confide in you as I reveal the depths of my tale. Please stay by my side, like and subscribe. I crave your support as I dare to bare my soul, so please like and subscribe. I need your support to keep going.